to the Gavilan College studio. As we present to you, Dr. O is in the studio discussing overcoming low self-esteem.
Overcoming low self-esteem. This is a topic close to my professional heart because I've encountered so many students, too many students, whose lives have been crippled by low self-esteem. I've seen how low self-esteem has crippled a student's relationships. It has undermined their academic performance because of low confidence academically. I've seen it affect their work performance because of low self-esteem. So this topic is dear to me, and I want to share it with you. And the way I'd like to begin is to share with you a definition of self-esteem. And self-esteem is how a student truly thinks, believes, and feels about themselves in general along a positive to negative continuum. And a student can have either a more low, negative, or unhealthy self-esteem, or a student can have a more high, positive, or healthy self-esteem.
I think self-esteem is pretty much how you feel about yourself.
I think self-esteem is what you believe in yourself, like how you feel about yourself. If you have low self-esteem, you don't think very highly of yourself. You let other people put you down. And I think when you have high self-esteem, you're able to take verbal, I guess, aggressions towards you, and you just let them bounce off like the sticks and stones, break my bones, whatever type thing. But yeah.
I think self-esteem is being confident with who you are and what your morals are.
I think self-esteem is the kind of confidence a person has to get a job done. If you plan out something in your life and you feel that you can do it, it's your self-esteem that's going to get you the energy to finish what you start.
I think self-esteem is being comfortable in your own skin and knowing who you are and being comfortable with who you are and not really worrying so much about what other people think of you.
I believe that self-esteem is essentially how do you feel and how do you respond to things and how you feel in life and how's your motivation and feeling inside. I think self-esteem is very important, and it gets you to life. It gets you to do many things. If you feel good about yourself, if you feel good about how everything goes, you keep on moving on,
Now that's general self-esteem. There are subtypes of self-esteem, and one subtype of self-esteem is physical self-esteem, which is how a student truly thinks, believes, and feels about their physical appearance. Then you have another type of self-esteem, academic self-esteem. And academic self-esteem is how a student truly thinks, believes, and feels about their ability to perform academically. And then you have interpersonal self-esteem, which is how a student truly thinks, believes, and feels about their ability to make, to get along with, and to keep friends, including boyfriends and girlfriends. And then you have a last subtype of self-esteem called athletic self-esteem, which is how a student truly, I'm emphasizing the word truly, thinks, believes, and feels about their ability to perform at work. Now, I should mention here what self-esteem isn't. Self-esteem isn't boasting or bragging. In fact, those students who boast and brag the most usually have the lowest self-esteem because they do this, number one, to impress others, number two, to feel good over the praise they receive from broadcasting their accomplishments. And number 3, to convince themselves that they're somebody through hearing themselves talk about the great things they've done. And a lot of these things they've done are just exaggerations or plain old lies. Now, high or positive self-esteem, you must listen to me now. High or positive self-esteem isn't making good grades. I know you believe that if you make good grades, somehow that's going to boast and booster your self-esteem. That's not necessarily so. High or positive self-esteem isn't making good grades. It isn't being popular or earning rewards. It isn't having a good job. It isn't having lots of money or coming from a good family, whatever that means. It isn't living in a nice home or having a nice car. It isn't having nice clothes or other material possessions. High self-esteem isn't being a hottie. It isn't being a hunk. It isn't being a good athlete. Now, you may ask me, how do I know this? I know this because some of the most unhappy, insecure, low self-esteem students I've seen in counseling have had many of these very things I've mentioned. I want to share with you some symptoms of low self-esteem, and I want you to listen closely to this. Here's one symptom of low self-esteem: constant preoccupation with yourself, always wondering how you look, how others think and feel about you, feeling like something's wrong with you and that you just don't fit in. That's one symptom of low self-esteem. Here's a second symptom: constantly comparing yourself to others. These students often feel jealous of others because when they compare themselves to others, they always lose. And the reason they always lose is because they have such a strong inferiority complex to begin with, which automatically sets her or him up to fall short when comparing themselves to others. A third symptom of low self-esteem that I've seen all too often with students: jealous, possessive, and controlling in relationships with the opposite sex. They're jealous, possessive, and controlling because they believe that they have so little to offer that they better keep that boyfriend or girlfriend nearby so she or he won't see that someone else can offer them more and leave them. Their fear is of being abandoned by whoever it is they're involved with. They're also possessive and controlling because they desperately need that boyfriend or girlfriend around them to give them strokes, to do things for them, to just be there so they can feel worthwhile. For the student with JPC, jealous, possessive, and controlling problems, relationships are a fix to help them feel secure. Here's another symptom, a fourth symptom of low self-esteem: prideful. Prideful. These students come off with a holier than thou, better than thou attitude, but they really have little confidence or little self-esteem, and they talk and walk prideful to hide their insecurities. Their pride is nothing more than a mask to cover up their real feelings of low self-esteem. A fifth symptom of low self-esteem: perfectionistic. Perfectionistic. These students try so hard to prove so bad that they're so good and never make mistakes. And this is a waste of time and effort. Because students are human, they're imperfect. And because they're imperfect, they're going to make mistakes. These perfectionistic students can't let go of their drivenness to reach and maintain an impossible standard. And this is a standard they push on themselves. They think that it's their parents. They think that it's their teachers. They think that it's their peers pushing these high expectations on them, but really it's internally induced. Inside, they believe they must be perfect at these things to prove to themselves and others that they're somebody. Now, these students that are perfectionistic can be hard to be around because of their impatience, their criticalness, their nitpickiness, their irritability and anger toward those who don't see things the way they do or do things the way they think they should. A sixth symptom of low self-esteem is chronic procrastination. These students rarely get things started or rarely get things done for fear of making a mistake and having someone come down on them, or for fear of failing at whatever they're trying to do. Now, chronic procrastination can also be caused by this belief: I still have time. So many students I've encountered procrastinate because they believe I still have time. If there's an exam a month away or a research paper due a month from now, they'll look at the calendar 3 weeks before it's due and say to themselves, I still have time. And then 2 weeks down the road, they may come across a date when the exam is due or research paper is due, and they think, I still have time. And it can be as late as a week before the paper is due, and some students will say, I still have time. And then maybe a weekend before or 2 days before, they'll notice that that paper is due or an exam is scheduled, and then they say, I have no more time. Some students just procrastinate because they keep believing, I still have time. Some procrastinate because they have this feeling of, I just can't get going until I have to. They have become addicted to that adrenaline rush of desperation that I need to study for this exam right now because it's tomorrow, or I need to really start working on that paper because it's due in 2 days. They are addicted to that adrenaline rush of desperation. And then a third reason why some students procrastinate is plain old poor organization. They don't have written down somewhere reminders of when things are due and have small steps to get there to be completed when it's due. Here's another symptom of low self-esteem: over defensiveness. Students who react this way can't stand to hear any corrections or suggestions from anybody because it stirs up negative thoughts and feelings that they already have about themselves. When people give them suggestions, corrections, feedback, constructive criticism, these individuals aren't telling this student anything they don't already know. They view such feedback as someone saying, you're wrong or not very smart. Let me show you the right way. But the real problem here is that these students are oversensitive. You're oversensitive to anything said to you because you really do feel like you don't know what you're doing, and you believe others can somehow see your flaws, and they're trying to embarrass you or put you down by giving you this feedback, these corrections and suggestions. And 99.9% of the time, no one's trying to put you down. They care about you, and they're just giving you feedback to help you. Another symptom of low self-esteem: excessive criticizing, condemning, and judging of others. And they do this because seeing imperfections in others stirs up their thoughts of superiority and the need to correct those who don't have it together like they do. Now, also, most students with low self-esteem were conditionally loved or severely criticized while growing up, and they have this storehouse of resentment and anger and bitterness which they take out on others by saying or doing the same hurtful things to others that were said or done to them. Now, these students genuinely believe that they're helping people by pointing out their flaws, but 99.9% of the time, their words and actions only push people away. And oftentimes they're not aware that their words and actions are pushing others away. Another symptom of low self-esteem, a very common symptom, more common with female students than male students, is difficulty receiving or accepting compliments. Some students don't feel they should get any strokes or compliments because they don't believe they're worth it or deserve it. They don't believe that the person giving them the compliment really means it or knows what they're talking about, because if the person really knew me, they wouldn't have anything good to say about a nobody like me. These types of students will often put down their talents, their gifts, and their successes by saying it was only luck or really nothing. They also have trouble giving strokes because of jealousy or because they didn't receive enough strokes themselves. Some of them don't know how to give strokes because they were never given strokes to know how to do it. Here's another symptom of low self-esteem: any type of addiction, dependency on alcohol, marijuana, tobacco, methamphetamine, prescription and over-the-counter medicines, caffeinated beverages, caffeinated beverages, foods, pornography, romance novels, sex, food, shopping, gambling, TV, DVDs, video, the internet, email checking, MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, a cell phone, texting, iPod, playing video games. All of these can be a sign of low self-esteem. Now, what the student is addicted to is not necessarily the things I just mentioned. What they are addicted to are the feelings created, for example, excitement, pleasure, or some other desirable feeling created by engaging in the things I mentioned, or they're addicted to the feelings reduced, for example, tension, boredom, or some other unpleasant feeling by engaging in these activities. For example, watching TV, surfing the internet, or playing video games is a way so many students use to escape stress or things that need to get done, or to prevent or reduce nervousness, boredom, worrying, or other uncomfortable thoughts and feelings. The addiction is to the feelings created or reduced by engaging in that activity. Another symptom of low self-esteem: severe or chronic guilt feelings. Now, guilt feelings in and of themselves aren't bad. They're the conscience's way of letting one know that their motives, their thoughts, their words, their feelings, or actions were out of line with good morals. But when guilt pervades one's thoughts to the point where it becomes difficult to say or do anything for fear of saying or doing something wrong, and discouragement or depression sets in, it's probably unhealthy guilt from a unresolved psychological issue, because unhealthy guilt paralyzes, but healthy guilt mobilizes you to do better. Those students who have severe or chronic guilt feelings are just too hard on themselves. They are their worst enemy. Another symptom: feelings of powerlessness. Students with low self-esteem often feel like they have little or no control over their life, and they're right. They don't, but you do have control over your response or reaction to what happens in your life. Put your efforts there, not in trying to control situations and control people. Put your effort into controlling your response to people and situations. Depression is another symptom of low self-esteem. Students with unhealthy self-esteem are prone to bouts of depression because they don't feel like they're worth much or have much to offer, or they don't believe others value them, respect them, or really care about them. Another symptom of low self-esteem: nervous, tense, always worrying and avoidant of any situation that might cause anxiety or discomfort. These students tend to look for the easy way in almost every situation because of their extreme sensitivity. These students are very sensitive. It doesn't take much for them to be rubbed the wrong way and to feel uncomfortable and anxious. This is another common symptom of low self-esteem in students: chronic people pleasing. These students keep saying yes, keep saying yes, keep saying yes to requests when they really want to say no. And they are often driven to do for others in order to be liked or accepted, as opposed to doing for others because it's the right thing to do. They're also overly concerned about hurting others' feelings, and so they go out their way to help others because they need to be needed and they need to hear the thank yous to bolster their low self-esteem. Living through others, another all too common symptom of low self-esteem. By following the lives of the rich and the famous and actors and actresses on TV and in the movies and in DVDs and videos, these students put themselves in their shoes and they derive a thrill because their own lives are so empty, so boring, and so unfulfilling. Living through entertainers is hazardous to self-esteem because a glamorous picture is often painted of all these actors and actresses and famous people, and students try to live their lifestyle, which they can't, and so they end up feeling even more frustrated and dissatisfied with themselves and their life. Many students are hooked on TV, and they spend so much time looking at it that they neglect things that need to get done. Nothing wrong with TV, but you should control it. It should not control you. A 17th symptom of low self-esteem: acting like something you're not to keep up with the Joneses. Many students fear not being good enough, and so they strive to meet others' standards to fit in and be accepted. So they will dress a certain way, talk a certain way, accumulate certain material possessions, adopt certain attitudes and airs, all to present an image of something they're not, to impress somebody. I'm thinking right now of one of the first clients I had almost 30 years ago. This man was rich 10 times over and historically had problems with low self-esteem. And he believed what society said, which was, if you make money, if you get rich, if you have it all, your self-esteem will go away. Well, this man was referred to me after being hospitalized because he tried to cut his throat. And he was so drunk that he cut everything but the jugular. Got tendons, got ligaments, got a few veins and arteries, but did not get the jugular. Well, anyway, they admitted him to San Francisco General Hospital. He had his throat sutured, and they sent him to me. And I remember what this man told me. I believed a lie. I believed that if I got rich, my self-esteem would go away. His self-esteem didn't go away. He's just a very rich man now with very low self-esteem. Please do not believe, dear student, that if you make money, if you get a nice job, if you have all the things you ever dreamed of, your self-esteem will go away. Your self-esteem, low self-esteem, will still be there. You'll just now be rich. In general, students with poor self-esteem are starved for self-worth, and out of their desperation, that's what it is, desperation to feel good about themselves and be acceptable to others, they're often driven to say and do things to feed that hunger. And deep down, they fear that others will find out how bad they are or how bad they think they are and reject them, leaving them all alone and feeling even more worthless.
I think most women today have low self-esteem. I think women are always constantly trying to change themselves, and I think they shouldn't do that. I'm not necessarily against plastic surgery, but I think there's things like that, like why do you need to change yourself?
I think we focus a little too much on how other people look, and then we try to resemble how they look. Everybody's different, so everybody needs to look at themselves and realize what makes them feel good, what makes them feel good about everything, and not how people look at them and how they react to that. Everybody's different. We come in different colors, shapes, and everything. So you gotta feel good about yourself regardless.
I think that people base self-esteem on what they look like, but I think it's what's inside that counts.
When it comes down to it, a person is a collection of things. It's not just one thing that defines who a person is. Their parents have a large part to do with it. Their the environment that they grow up, the type of friends they have.
I feel like a lot of women today feel like they need to have someone constantly on their arm or be on the arm of someone else to feel good about themselves. Like they need someone to acknowledge or prove that they have worth by being with them. And I think that if you're confident with yourself, you don't need that.
I want to move on and talk about some causes of low self-esteem. Now, the causes of low self-esteem are endless, but I just want to share 12 that stand out to me. Here's one of them, a cause of low self-esteem. Media and peer pressure to look a certain way and have certain material possessions. Now, this can lead to negative or irrational thinking about yourself and your life, and ultimately dissatisfaction with who you are and your life. A second cause and common cause of low self-esteem is being teased, being criticized, being taunted about your appearance, about your intelligence, about your social skills or your athletic ability by your peers, by family members, by relatives, and unfortunately even teachers can criticize in such a way that it undermines your self-esteem. A third cause of low self-esteem: fear of the future because of uncertainty in society, which can lead to a lack of confidence to cope with the future. Chronic family challenges and problems are a fourth cause of low self-esteem. When you are in the midst of chronic family challenges and problems, it can be overwhelming and detract from focus on self-development because you're so absorbed in just dealing with all of this family conflict coming your way. Another cause of low self-esteem, emotional traumas or extreme stress, which breeds ultra sensitivity to life stressors and feelings of fragility or inability to cope with them. Another very common cause of low self-esteem in students, parenting style. Parenting style. And there are multiple parenting styles that can undermine or threaten self-esteem, and one is overprotective parenting. Now, every parent wants to protect their children from harm, and that's good. But some parents are overprotective or ultra-protective, where they will not allow their son or daughter to learn how to deal with challenges and problems and stressors of life, but will step in between that son or daughter and that challenge, problem, or stressor and fight the battle for them. What they are doing is crippling them. You have to teach your son, your daughter, how to cope, because one day you're not going to be there, or the child is going to move away, and they have to know how to fight for themselves. Plus, when a parent is overprotective, the meta message they're giving the student is this: the world is unsafe and you can't handle it, so I must handle it, and that can cripple self-esteem. Another type of parenting style that can cripple self-esteem is authoritarian parenting, where the parent is critical and controlling, and the child feels like they can only do whatever their parent tells them to do, which they cannot always do, and so their self-esteem plummets. Another type of parenting that affects self-esteem is neglectful parenting, which can lead to loneliness, feeling neglected, abandoned, unloved, or unwanted. And this is a common type of parenting these days, because in many families now, both parents are working, and no one is really there for the kids in a quality, quantity way. Another type of parenting that torpedoes self-esteem is conditionally loved parenting, where the parent only loves you if you meet their expectations, and if you don't meet their expectations, you're not good enough and they don't care about you. Another type of parenting that can undermine self-esteem is when parents compare other peers to their child in a positive way, saying that, why can't you be like so-and-so? Why can't you be like him or her? I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to say this is something you should strive for, but that's not what the student hears. What the student hears is this: why can't you be like him? And if I could start all over, I'd rather have him or her than you. You are basically rejecting that student. Another type of parenting style that can affect low self-esteem is drug-addicted parenting, which is always dysfunctional, where the parents don't or can't provide the essentials for healthy personal and interpersonal development because the home environment is chaotic, inconsistent, and depriving. Another cause of low self-esteem is through vicarious learning, which involves a student witnessing others struggle with personal, interpersonal, and life issues, and that student believes, just like those I'm looking at can't cope, neither can I. An eighth cause of low self-esteem is probably one in the top three, so you must listen closely now. Unhealthy or negative dating or boyfriend or girlfriend experience. Whenever I think about the many students I've seen, this is a top 3 torpedo for low self-esteem. Just think about it. Here it is, you care for somebody and you believe they care for you, and you start dating. And then you become boyfriend and girlfriend. And for whatever reason, the relationship blows up in your face where him or her begins to verbally, emotionally, perhaps physically, financially exploit you, treat you entirely different from the way they treated you in the beginning. And most students, particularly females, blame themselves for that, thinking and believing, is there something I did wrong? Is there something I'm not doing right? Is it me? Well, 99% of the time it is not you. You're not to blame for that maltreatment. That person has a problem. You want to be careful about who you date, and more importantly, who you allow to become your boyfriend or girlfriend. If he or she doesn't treat you specially, they deserve no relationship with you, and you end it. You don't give anybody another chance. You let them know up front when you say, I'll be your boyfriend or girlfriend, that these are some things I wish you would not say or do. Otherwise, I gotta go. And you have to be clear about that. Here's another cause of low self-esteem: identity issues, where there is a discrepancy between the ideal self, which is what a student really wants to be like, and their true self, which is how a student really knows she or he is. That can cause an identity issue. Another element that can cause an identity issue is unsure about your purpose in life. Everyone has to find out as early as possible, what's your purpose in life? Why are you here? When you move off the stage of life through death, what legacy, what good deed, good works, what will you leave behind that's good? Another element that can contribute to an identity issue is struggling to determine how to fit in and be accepted by others without betraying what's important to yourself. All of us have to struggle with that to some degree. How do I fit in? How do I be accepted, but without compromising what's important to me? Another cause of low self-esteem is loss, such as death of someone cared for, doing poorly in school, a parental separation or divorce, losing one's job. The loss of a pet can breed issues with self-esteem because a student may blame him or herself, may feel like a failure, or can't picture life without whatever was lost. Another cause of low self-esteem is unproductiveness, such as not experiencing sufficient successes or achievements, which often results in a loss of usefulness, a loss of meaning, and a loss of purpose. And then the 12th symptom of low self-esteem: sexism, racism, anyism. If you're being treated negatively because of your gender, if you're being treated negatively because of your race, if you're being treated negatively because of your economic status, that can negatively affect your self-esteem.
Honestly, I think that a person that is able to travel and see different places and see different views and perspectives from different peoples, especially young in life, it has a profound impact on them for the rest of their life.
I think technology does get in the way of real relationships. I like having face-to-face relationships. I mean, whether it's with your best friend or with guys or, whatever. I think it's very important to have communication in relationships, and it's very important to be honest with your friends and your partners and things. And I think technology can kind of get in the way of that.
I think you have to plan your life according to what your needs are. I think you have to realize that everybody has different needs. So what you have to do is essentially look at yourself in the long run and figure out where you stand and take the best route to it.
I have a very good support system. I have a very supportive family and very supportive friends, and they're able to help me. And I have my volleyball team. I mean, they're better than anybody could ever ask for. They're always there for me. We're always together. So just very supportive people in my life.
I think it comes from everything. It comes from your parents. It comes from your environment, who you surround yourself with. I think that's a major part of it, who you decide to be around.
I don't think it's healthy to allow other people to decide who you are on the inside. I think that causes more problems than it solves, and it's important that a person know who they are.
Well, how does a student overcome low self-esteem? I have 12 strategies I want to share with you. And if you apply these strategies, I guarantee you, your self-esteem will improve. Number one, you must confront your negative self-talk, your self-criticalness, and worrying by making a list of the positive things about yourself and life, and then read them over daily to remind yourself that you're not all bad. Nobody is all bad. Nobody is all good. We are a combination of both. But I have discovered that most students are mostly good, but many don't believe that. When you make this list, you not only realize that there are good things about you, but there are also good things going on in your life. Also, you want to write down realistic goals for yourself, for your life, for service to others, along with small steps to get there, and then stick to these steps as best you can. A second strategy to increase your self-esteem is to use your abilities, use your skills, use your talents to serve others, because serving is an excellent way to improve, to increase, to enhance your well-being. A third strategy to increase your self-esteem, just accept compliments with a simple thank you. You don't have to make all these excuses and it was only luck or nothing. Just say thank you and move on. Number 4, you want to do this. You want to do this. Exercise regularly and eat properly, because the condition of your body affects your physical, mental, and social well-being. Think about it. I've encountered so many students who, when they look in the full-length mirror, which reflects from the tips of their toes to the top of their heads, or they look in the face mirror, which just reflects from the neck up, so many are disgusted with what they see, particularly females, males too, but particularly females. And that can drag down your self-esteem if you don't like what you see in the mirror. But if you exercise regularly, if you eat properly, if you eat to live instead of live to eat, and drink to live instead of live to drink, your weight, your physical health, all of that will be as best as it can be, and you don't have to worry about issues in that area. You want to stay away. You want to stay away from alcohol or other drugs and that excessive use of TV and DVDs and videos and the internet and the computer games and cell phone and technology. These are only temporary escapes from whatever feelings of low self-esteem or depression or whatever uncomfortable feeling you're trying to get away from. Once you come down from that high, whatever feeling you were trying to escape is still there waiting for you. Another way to increase your self-esteem is to purchase a weekly planner. My students hear this all the time. Purchase a weekly planner and schedule your homework, your exercise, your chores, your work, your social time, everything in that appointment book, along with how much time you're going to do each, and then do them. If you're going to write this down, you want to do them. You don't want to let any parent, you don't want to let any teacher or boss, you don't want anyone to have to remind you of what you already know you need to do. A sixth way to improve your self-esteem: be appropriately assertive by expressing your thoughts and feelings to others in a kind, tactful, and respectful manner, keeping in mind how you would like to be spoken to and treated. But you must give up the idea. Give up the idea that you can make people change if you just say and do the right things. People change because they choose to, not because of you. Number 7, if you're somewhat shy, push yourself to get more involved in activities with others. Now, it may be uncomfortable. It may feel uncomfortable for a while, but in time, you'll feel more at ease. Number 8, if you make a mistake, and we all make mistakes, if you make a mistake, which everyone does from time to time, take responsibility for it. Forgive yourself. Come up with a better way to handle it next time, and then move on. Don't be so hard on yourself. You want to listen now. Don't be so hard on yourself when you break up with someone, when your grades aren't so good, or things in your life aren't going the way you'd like. Just think about where you can make improvements and then do it. Number 9, avoid comparing yourself to others. I know it's hard not to do this, but avoid comparing yourself to others and just focus on being the best you can be. Don't base. I know this is difficult. I know what I'm about to say feels impossible to do, but if you do this, your self-esteem will shoot up. Don't base your self-esteem or self-worth on how good you look, how popular or smart you are, how athletic you are, how you perform in life, how much education you have, how much money you make, the type of clothes you wear, how many nice things you have, whether you came from that good family or not, because most of these things you have no control over. You must love yourself unconditionally. Think about it. If you don't accept and love you, it will be hard to believe that anyone else can either. Number 10, you want to listen closely to this. Develop your problem-solving ability. Problem solving is basically finding an appropriate way to attain a goal. And there are 5 steps in the problem-solving process. And I want to go through this with you because I'm hoping that you will apply this to any challenge or problem in your life. Here's the first step. Identify the problem or challenge. And I'm even going to give you an example of how to apply these 5 steps to a problem so you can model it and apply it to a problem in your life. Number one, identify the problem or challenge. And for this example, the problem or challenge I'm identifying is, I can't pay my bills. Now you know why I'm using that example, because that's true for most students. They can't pay their bills. So for some of you won't need to apply this to anything. I'm doing it for you. Identify the problem or challenge. I can't pay my bills. Number two step, break the problem or challenge down. And for this example of I can't pay my bills, here is how I'm breaking it down. I have more bills or debt than income to pay them. I tend to buy on impulse. Most of my purchases are for wants and not needs. I use my credit cards way too much. See, in that second step, I broke the problem or challenge down. Then you move on to the third step, which is come up with strategies to address the problem or challenge. So with this problem of I can't pay my bills, here are some strategies to address the problem or challenge. Develop a budget. Wait 24 hours before any major purchase. Prioritize needs over wants. Make purchases with cash or a debit card only. Cut up all of your credit cards except one for emergencies only. Then you move on to the final step in this problem-solving process, which is evaluate the outcome of the effectiveness of the strategy tried. And if the outcome or the effectiveness doesn't improve your ability to pay bills, then you go back to that step 3 and you try another strategy, such as seeing a debt counselor. Eleventh symptom to improve self-esteem, you want to find a psychotherapist or a support group for help in understanding the origins and overcoming your low self-esteem. And then a 12th and final thing to keep in mind when improving your self-esteem is to keep this in mind. Developing a healthy self-esteem takes time. It took you a while to get there. It's going to take a while to get out of there. It takes time to build a healthy self-esteem. So be patient. It will improve if you apply these strategies. Thank you for listening.
The way I see it is that things happen for a reason in life, so that's just a learning experience. I mean, if it didn't go well, then take that as as a lesson in life, and then just move on, thinking that okay, next time I'm gonna try to do better. Everything is gonna be okay.
Right now, I think I have a pretty high self-esteem. I know who I am, and I know what I want.
Staying true to yourself, finding your inner self, not letting anyone push you around or try and change who you are. I mean, even if people think you're weird, that's you, and somebody out there is gonna like you for you, whether it's your best friend or your partner, whatever. They're gonna like you for you.
Thank you, Dr. Carlton Ohler. And join us next time when the GavTV educational channel will be pleased to bring another moment with Dr. O in the studio, where he will be discussing issues with mental health dealing with our college-age students.